Hello and welcome to the Warhammer Meta Chasers. This is your weekly live tournament rundown show, coming bringing you the best and biggest tournaments from all around the world for Warhammer 40,000. My name is Paul, your host. I'm joined by Adam Camilleri
Oh, g'day.
and Dustin Henshaw.
I'm not dead.
Yay, you made it.
I made
And
it.
everyone in chat. So great to see y'all jumping in here. Like I said, I mentioned we do this live. You're listening to us after fight from the aggregators, 9 p.m. on Thursday Eastern time. We have a great chat community. Hang out, talk about Warhammer for the course of this hour. Two great events to bring you this week.
We do indeed. We have the Coventry GT, which is a 2-day and a 3-day event, about 140, then 80 or 90 odd players. And we have smooshed them together for your viewing pleasure. So we just give the full breakdown of that entire meta at that event. I really like that structure. What do you guys think about that? Where you have like, here's a 2-day and a 3-day running concurrently. And then if you want to drop out from the last day, you totally can.
More Warhammer more often. I'm a big believer in that. I mean, it's not possible for everybody, right? Or for all events, but sometimes you only get so many times opportunities over the month to play Warhammer, and here you might get a whole bunch of games over the course of one weekend. Love it.
I thought you were talking about squishing them together for the stats, like some kind of taco event. Oh, I like that actually. This is a taco event.
The Coventry sandwich or
Coventry sandwich.
taco
there we go.
of some kind.
Well, tacos are sandwiches. We discussed this already, guys. Tacos are sandwiches.
Did we discuss that?
I don't know if we agreed on that, but I know we discussed it.
I mean, look,
the ghosts of Fuego's past.
I think this is the third time we've covered Coventry.
It is literally the third time.
I think it is.
We may have been called a different name in the past, but yeah, third time this trio has covered Coventry.
Love it when these see the events and start to build their own legacies themselves. But this one, I know you got it smashed into things here, but 147 players in the 3-dayer, 87 in the 2-dayer, combined for 234 players. Are those distinct individual players, or are they people that have already hedged their bets, registering for both just in case?
Oh no, you can't register for both. Yeah, so that's individuals.
Got it. Over the course of this weekend is an 8 and 6 rounds respectively. Here's a part where, if you're new here, we run down what the different factions you're going to see. Maybe a little bit different here because of the two tournaments smushed together. But Dustin, what are we going to see there?
We're going to be seeing 3 Imperial Agents, pure Imperial Agents. Interesting. 5 Sisters of Battle, 10 Custodes, a 5 Admech, 19 Astra Militarum, 4 Grey Knights, and 6 Imperial Knights. Space Marines, there's 5 Adeptus Astartes, 13 Dark Angels, 7 Space Wolves, 8 Blood Angels, and 2 Black Templar. Sorry, guys, got to take deep breaths this time because I don't have as much air in my lungs. Chaos, there's 18 Chaos Space Marines, 7 T-Suns, 7 Death Guard, 15 World Leaders, 7 Demons, and 4 Chaos Knights. Xenos, there's 18 Necrons, 7 Orcs, 11 Tau, and 5 Votan. Hive Mind, there's 12 Tyranids and 7 Genes to their cult. The numbers are rising everywhere. Eldari, there's 8 Drukhari and 10 Eldari, meaning the faction podium is Astra Militarum, topping it off with 19. CS7 Necrons tied in second with 18. Sisters and World Leaders in third with 15, and then Dark Angels at 13, and Tyranids right behind them with 12.
Yeah,
very nice.
I mean, talk about we know they've been good the last several weeks and even months, but I think people were ready to count them out, but they found a way to battle back in. And is this terrain? Is it because of some other choices that other folks are taking, or they've just always been this good?
So I think they have always been. So I think for the last 3 to 6 months, they've been a top 5 faction in the game, especially at team events. They've been a very strong performer. And now what has happened is they had one of their archetypes removed, another archetype added at the same time of maybe equal, maybe a little bit less power, but all the predators went down, so it's more like the ships around them started sinking, and they got to patch up their holes quickly, so to speak,
because they have 9,000 data slates.
Correct. And they just got one brand new one added to the pile, which is a house of a thing in the Tempestus Aquilons. So they had the Bulgrin archetype. That durability archetype was somewhat removed. Bulgrin is still kind of takeable, but justifying 660 points to take 18 of them now is a lot. Like it's a third of your army, gone right there. But there, so you remove the Bulgrin, and so not playing that, so that durability skew where you're just going to go exist in the middle and put the stat check on people, and then of course they have to come out to try and kill the Bulgrin, and then you pick them up with tanks and they can't kill the Bulgrin anymore. Whereas now they're playing much more of a bit, I guess, more of a janky, well-rounded game where tank commanders are starting to feel really good again. Of course, Rogel Dawn's Lehman Russ is still extremely strong, and now they have just a supreme control of the battlefield with the Aquilons being able to rapid ingress 3 inches away. Essentially, at any time, just stop people from charging you, and just pretty much like airdropping in an Aegis defense line on demand, and just bang, put the wall in the way.
Very nice. You pulled out a couple of lists though for this one, right?
I did indeed, because it's 2 events. Technically, I pulled out 2 lists, and this event is stacked. So we have, I think almost half the top 10 in the ITC is playing at this event, or it's somewhere around that number. Or so many incredible players. But number 1 in the world right now, Kyle Grundy, who's number 1 in the entire world in the ITC. He's playing Tau Empire Retaliation Cadre. So he is mostly known as a Carrion player. And so he's even seen some of the writing on the wall, switching over to the suits. Farsight kicks it off. He got a great points reduction in the MFM. And he's looking very good for the points. 2 Coalstar commanders, 2 Enforcer commanders, one of which has the Starflare ignition system. 2x10 strikes, so not taking breaches. He's taking the much cheaper strikes now. A single unit of 2 broadsides with what you would expect, the railguns. 3 plasma fire knife suits. I've chucked the names of the gun that they have to take in the thing just because I don't know. 3x3 flamer suits, that's the star sights. 2x3 Sunforge suits, which is the fusions, and then 2x10 Kroot, still 3x3 stealth suits, and 2x5 Vespid. So a lot of utility wrapped around like 6 premium damage dealing units.
2x5 Vespids too. I mean, I know you mentioned utility, but like that's the first time I've seen 2 units of Vespids, I think, in a while.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Usually it was 1 unit of 5 just to have something in deep strike to go and and get a card here or there. But now 2x5, absolutely. I think their new data sheet is absolutely worth it. And this is a really, really savage list. 6 like really heavy hitting, somewhat dynamic, apart from the broadsides, like very quite dynamic and flexible units. I'm very interested I'd love to be able to pick his brain, but I'd love to know about the flamers. And I'd love to know if he's taking the flamer suits because of all the guard playing all those Aquilons, because if you want to try and rapid ingress on a unit of 3 stealth, 3 flamer suits, you're just dead. The models are just dead. And so is that him like going straight into the anti-meta pile, like from like day dot, from the first minutes?
You must be right. I think you're exactly right, because it's not, I mean, those definitely will vaporize
absolutely
up to 3 models with not that much armor to speak of. But anytime you can remove the flamers, hit, they have torrent, they don't roll to hit, so they hit automatically. So anytime you remove the dice from a situation, you're better off. And I think you're going to want those crisis suit bodies anyway. And there's a whole lot of sweep and clear action that you got to be somewhere and do stuff with, and people got to be all over the board to score points in the mission. So it's a safe bet. I think it's a safe bet.
But what's wild to me is this is the reason I think Tau are going to be such a big player in the meta to come. They're actually my dark horse for the most backhandedly improved faction. Mm-hmm. Whereas I believe that the list that they're running benefit the most from the other factions' changes. Things like, I think especially the sisters and stuff like the Accursed Cultists list for Chaos Space Marines. They had a lot of trouble there. A lot of those lists, maybe not being seen as much, and a lot of more compromises being made on the sisters front, I believe leaves the door wide open for Tau. Just look at how much brutality he gets in this list while still having one of the best suites of utility units you can get for the points. Stealth suits, Kroot, Vespid, strikes, fantastic utility units. He has a lot of them. And then he has just superstar, like medium durability, high output bombs to just throw at you, like in the fusions, the plasmas, suits, and then all the commanders to go in tow to give him some jank, give him some extra oomph. I think this is a fantastic list by Kyle.
Oh,
yeah. It seems real solid.
Absolutely love that.
Want to give some shout outs to folks in chat. Also got a first time to join us in the chat, Mr. Talk a Lot, and so going to their first grand tournament this weekend, and said kind of got some confidence from listening to shows like this to get out there and do it. So thanks for coming and joining us live, and also good luck. Break a leg, whatever we're supposed to say. Best of luck, roll sixes.
Thank you guys. No, man. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the community. Go have fun. This is exactly what we want. If we're encouraging one person to go out and enjoy an event they didn't get to enjoy before, this is worth it. 100% worth it.
That's right.
Of
Absolutely.
course, you're good to see Steve, Dorian, KR, Nurgle Matt. Love it. Here we go. Yep, and folks in here from Atlanta, absolutely love it. And Ryan, first time I've seen that name in a bit. So welcome everybody. Again, if you're listening to us after the fact on the aggregators, come join us live. We have some amazing folks that help keep us honest. Also, because sometimes we go a little bit off the rails, or we got some questions about maybe what some folks are thinking. And we want to get that insight from y'all also.
All right. So Josh Roberts is also in attendance at this event, who is number 2 in the world. He's taking the same list he took. He's been taking for a while now, which is a very, very MSU skewed Chaos Space Marines list. So I didn't want to unpack that one because I think we've seen it before on the show. So and of course, with Astra Militarum being so heavily represented here, I wanted to unpack one of the Astra Militarum lists. And just so happens, number 6 in the world in the ITC, Nassim Fouchain is here with his guard. He's got his combined regiment of Lord Solar and a Tempestus command squad, a platoon command squad, a single tank commander, 3 units of Catachans. One of those, of course, will be joined to Solar and the platoon command squad. Literally half the Bulgrin he would have taken last week, being a unit of 6 and a unit of 3. So literally half.
You think that's just like you didn't have time to switch out all the models?
I still think 1 unit of 6 is possibly very valuable to have in matchups in a singles environment. I think 1 unit of 6 is still very valuable. The second unit of 3, he's probably got a plan. Maybe he's chucking it in a transport or somewhere. Actually, never mind. 2 Lehman Russ battle tanks, a Lehman Russ exterminator for the full package of getting all that extra AP, and then a Hellhound in addition that makes that package really good. So you can get AP3 ignores cover on your battle tanks. 2 units of 3 Ogrins, and 2x10 Tempestus Aquilons and 10 Scions. And I have to assume that I have missed his 2 Chimeras, because I would never leave home without them. And Nassim is a better player than me. So I'm assuming he's got 2 Chimeras in there that I have forgotten, which is the play with the 2 units of Ogryn, by the way. So it's been identified that 3 Ogryn go into a Chimera and get to shoot out the top hatch. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of 6-shot heavy bolters strapped to the side of your Chimera. Once you've used the Catachans to go and roadblock, get a primary point, score a card, etc. And it makes for a very, very nice little package.
You mentioned the exterminator, and I wanted to regard that rules. In your shooting phase after this model is shot, select one enemy unit hit by 1 or more of those attacks made by this exterminator autocannon until the end of the phase. Each time a friendly Astra Militarum unit makes an attack, it targets the enemy unit. Improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So it's basically like turns on bunches of potential units. Yeah. Maybe.
And so the Hellhound has a similar ability for ignores cover, and then of course there's a mortar in the platoon command squad. So for 2 command points, you can, after the mortar has hit something or targeted something rather, you can absolutely use that to get you another AP as well. And I was not incorrect. I wrote it down. I did not believe myself, but I wrote it down correctly. He has no transports here.
Really?
So forget everything I said about the Chimera play. And I suppose that's just a choice to get more stuff in your list. Like, they are still 70 points a pop for the Chimeras, so he's saving himself a bunch of points there. And that's probably where he made the concessions to still take 9 Bulgrin.
I mean, the points got to come somewhere. And look, right. we talked about this, on our Patreon subscriber part 2, about how guard, have been dominant. They're going to still be dominant, I think. And this is an example of that evolution that people probably would be borrowing from.
Interestingly, I didn't denote this on my first part, but on the second part, his unit of 10 Scions doesn't have the melter gun plasma gun. They have the plasma guns and hotshot Voldy guns. So they're actually packing a lot of DACA. And of course, he's got another hotshot volley gun in his command squad. So they've got like 18 shots from those 3 guns just to lay down some withering fire should you ever come into those, accursed cultists again.
Yeah, good call with the cultists there.
Yeah, agreed. Very good list by Nassim, and I think this one is going to do extremely well also. This is going to be a really hard one to pick, boys. And I'm going to give you 2 picks because there's technically 2 events. And so
2 events and 2 picks.
Oh,
so this is where we pick winners.
Picks.
We predict what player or by proxy their faction is going to win the top spot at the event. In the Patreon show that I was just describing, we actually look back at the weekend before and see how well we did with our predictions, and of course do some lighthearted, good-natured, some encouragement.
Ribbing.
Let's just say that to our other
Encouragement,
host
he
here on
says.
the show.
All right, I need to roll a dice. Who's got a dice? All my dice are packed away.
I've got one. Here we go.
All right.
Let's see. I'm 1 or 2. Dustin 3 or 4. Adam 5 or 6. 1. It's me.
Oh, of course it is. A likely story. All right, Paul, what would you like?
How ironic.
No, I'm so surprised. I didn't even know it was going to be me. I don't know. But we were definitely going Astra Militarum.
Yeah, absolutely. I already wrote it in. All right, 50-50. 1, 2, 3 is me. 4, 5, 6 is Dustin.
4, 5, 6 is Dustin. Here we go. 1, 2. It's Adam.
All right. Oof. Actually, this is now hard. I have to actually think about this.
I'm glad I'm getting these rolls out of my system. So.
I'm gonna go CSM. I'm going CSM.
CSM. Okay.
What would you like for your first pick, Dustin?
Well, I mean, I'll take Tau at this point.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, Paul, your second pick. And it can be the same one because you're picking for 2 different events. So if you want to pick guard and guard, it's just
Blood Angels.
BA, good man. I'm picking guard. So the first pick was for the 3-man. The second pick is for the 2. So for the 3-day. The second pick is for the 2-day. So Dustin, what would you like to pick for the 2-dayer?
Oh, I don't even know what the stats are for it.
I know you don't. You guys don't know how much is in which. I don't know either. This was like 2 days ago.
You're a liar. You're a liar.
I'm not lying.
You took guard. Paul took. You know what? Well, we're taking our factions. I'll just take Tyranids at this point.
That's not a bad pick. If I had to tell, yeah.
If he were to tell you what was in there,
if I was to tell you that I actually knew it was there.
Yeah, if I was to tell you, I would have to tell you, but I'm not going to tell you.
Are we all picked up? We all good?
We're all good, mate.
All good. Let's see. The next event we're going to be talking about is the Kval 2024 from Denmark, and that's where it is. 190 players, 38 teams of 5, a 5-round event. In team events, typically, and I'm sure this event is the same, you can only pick the same faction once per team. So the closer we get to that, 50% or higher of the number of teams in attendance, it will kind of telegraph what the players or attendees think is the stronger of the factions.
So a couple of things to tell you guys about this one. This event was brought to our attention by one of our beautiful patrons, Thomas, and he's let us know that the town this is held in is this is how it's spelt, Aarhus. And this is in Denmark. Who wants to have a punt?
Aarhus.
Aarhus.
Hus.
I don't know if you roll the R. I don't know
either. I've got no idea.
Am I rolling my R? I've never been able to roll my R. That's not on purpose if I am.
That was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is the chat can definitely help us out here. Like, where are we going super astray? We never intentionally try to pronounce a city or a place or anyone's name incorrectly, but we are reading it. So.
Yes, and we are a pile of uncouth so-and-sos, and we do our best. This is somewhat of a WTC qualifier for Team Denmark. So this is a WTC standard event. It'll have WTC format tables, WTC pairings, and all those things therein. So a lot of teams, 190 players have turned out in 38 teams to contest for, either bragging rights or putting their best foot forward for national selection. So this is going to be a big deal for Denmark.
I like that.
What are we going to see there?
We will be seeing 9 Sisters of Battle, 8 Custodes, 3 Admech, 7 Astra Militarum, 9 Grey Knights, and 6 Imperial Knights. Space Marines, there's 5 Astartes, 7 Dark Angels, 5 Space Wolves, 3 Blood Angels, and 3 Black Templar. Chaos, there's 13 Chaos Space Marines, 7 T-Suns, 7 Death Guard, 15 World Eaters, 10 Demons, and 10 Chaos Knights. Xenos, there's 10 Necrons, 9 Orcs, 10 Tau, and 2 Votan. Hive Mind, there's 13 Tyranids and 3 Genies to their cult. Eldari, there's 3 Drukhari and 10 Eldari, meaning the faction podium is 15 World Eaters topping it off. Tyranids and CSM in second with 13. Necrons in third with 12. Then Demons, Chaos Knights, Eldari, and Tau in fourth with 10. Orcs, Grey Knights, and Sisters right behind them with 9.
So the WTC format is slightly different than like the U.S. Open Series format with terrain and things like that.
Hmm.
But even with that said, being somewhat familiar with some of the differences, I would not have expected the world leaders to be at the top of this list.
I would not have expected World Leaders to be at the top of this list. Also, there are this is a much more dispersed faction podium than we would have had last week. Last week, it would have just gone more than half. So nothing has over half representation. There's no faction that's been taken by over half the teams. 15 is the best we've got, and there's 38 teams. So we're actually quite a little bit away from 50%, which denotes a brand new meta. People still ruminating, trying to figure out what works and what has changed in their factions. Should they take it? Should they not? The fact that we've got a team event that doesn't have T-Suns on the podium, that's like a first for the last the addition. We've got 5 positions on this podium and an enormous amount of factions represented, and one of them is T-Suns. And that, I believe, is a true representation of just how what has changed for that faction. And because straight up, they need almost complete redesign. And we do have one of those coming up in the team we're going to be unpacking. And we will talk about that when we get to it. Demons, Chaos Knights, showing good representation here, strong representation. Orcs as well, coming up from, somewhere in the bottom middle of the pack to, getting good choices as well. And CSM still hanging tough despite their previous best archetype taking very significant changes. Anything you guys can think of as to why World Eaters is just like the go?
It really is a check on folks. It's like you can deal with this or you can't. And knowing the terrain format, if you get a table pick, there's a lot of things that can go right for the world eaters, and they're capable of maxing points every game.
In addition, one of their worst matchups, Sisters, so Adeptus Sororitas, did get massively disincentivized, as in that's a list that people may have just been like, well, I don't have the time to get this right, so maybe I won't play it for this event, because I do believe that there's some balancing in your list that you're going to need possibly a couple of days, a couple of weeks to really sit down and practice and nut out what a new Sisters list looks like. Because if you just took your old Bringers of Flame and just cut the points to get it down, well, you probably don't have a Triumph anymore. And in all honesty,
you have fewer screen units too. Like part of the thing is creating those layers, the defense, and you run out sooner.
Yeah, where are you dropping the points on to make up for the fact that your Seraphim Dominions and Immolators all went up as well, in addition to Morven Vile and the Paragon? So I feel like the internal balance of that is going to need some readjustment. And World Eaters, without having to face as many Sisters, probably have a very good time. In addition, the Accursed Occultist units aren't around as much anymore, so they might be seen as...
Wait for it. Wait for it.
The dominant port scoring force here. I think they're
actually
probably the one on attack is what they're hoping for, to be the list that all other fears. Because when you go up in team events, you pair. So you put out a couple of lists. They get to put out against one of theirs that they've got as the defender. Then your opponents get to choose which one they want to face. And I think what they're kind of surmising here is no one wants to face the World Eaters, because they're most the thing that was keeping them at bay or in check, especially deeper in the rounds of the event, may have evaporated with the Adeptus Sororitas that Adam was just talking about. As meaning, the way the Adeptus Sororitas worked is that they would create all these kind of patterns of defense while they're having big power pieces come and do all this work, and now fewer of those units will be on the table, meaning it's harder for them to score points and defend at the same time. World Eaters doing what World Eaters do, going forward, charging, attacking. The only thing that really got hit in the World Eaters list that I think is of any of significance for some, or only for some players, was the Master of Execution.
Yeah, that's not going to affect the list that much. Like, a lot of people were still taking it, but I've seen a lot of lists without him too. So it's not going to really change much of what the World Eaters were already doing, and they were already not a problem. Like, they're a list that, again, like you're saying, in teams, they're hard to pair against for a lot of lists. Like, if you don't have the tools to deal with their aggression, if they can go aggressive on you, you're getting walked over.
Indeed. And I want to give, let's jump into some of the list here. I want to talk about, give the shout out to Thomas, who in his team, Grand Theft Rhino, for bringing this event to us in our Discord as being a member of our Patreon. And he is playing Dark Angels with the Stormlands Task Force, got Azrael, the Lion, Judicar with Portents of Wisdom, Ravenwing Command Squad with Hunter's Instincts, 2x5 Deathwing Knights, 5 Infiltrators, 2x6 Inner Circle Companions, 2x5 Scouts, 6 Black Knights, and then the Calidus Assassin coming in there. Very nice list.
You're back at him.
Oh, joyous. Just in time to review some spice of the Dark Angel variety.
And we just ran down Thomas's list and thanked him for bringing this event to our attention, and of course being a part of the Patreon as well. And
I really like the. Sorry, go Paul.
Oh no, I was going to ask you, like, what do you think of this? Like, you are a Dark Angel player, and here we got a lot of name characters in here, a lot of character support, and then of course they're bringing in the Assassin, which is a nice choice.
Yeah, I do agree. I love this is what I was kind of already planning to do, because I kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, a lot of people did. Pre-MFM, we're like, well, it's pretty likely Deathwing Knights are going to get a bit of a whack. And 15 points, I don't think is a death knell for the unit, but it definitely means I don't want to be taking 15 at all the times as well. Whereas Inner Circle Companions have shown to me to be extremely potent for the points and a much aggressively flexible, I guess, is the best way to describe them. And so I really like dropping one unit of 5 Deathwing Knights for another unit of Inner Circle Companions. The fights first abilities, and then one of them being joined by Azrael, so it gives it a 4-up invulnerable save in addition to being -1 to hit, is just really kind of sick. I think this is quite a good list.
The companions look awesome. They're just great models.
Superb. Absolutely superb models. Yeah. The question is here, is he getting enough out of being the Stormlance to justify it over and above being the Gladius? Taking the Lion, I actually quietly have some beautiful jank in mind to use with the Lion. But giving the Lion like advance and charge when he can go through walls is pretty juicy, because of course that's what the Stormlance gives you. He's got the turn 1 outflank, or the turn 1 reserve Hunter's Instincts. So the 6 Black Knights and the Command Squad are going to be rocking up on your table edge turn 1. And what I really like about it is not putting him on turn 1, but putting him into your backfield on turn 2, which a lot of people at times make the mistake of not screening their backline on turn 2, believing that you can't come in their backline on turn 2, and all of a sudden, oh my god, there's 9 plasma bikes back there. It's a big problem. And then of course you can time that with your go turn being, maybe you've rapid ingressed if you've gone second, and or pushing the Lion and 2x6 Inner Circle Companions into their face, and it can get quite overwhelming. This list is quietly pretty good on the pressure front, because it has extremely good threat ranges. The only thing I guess is lacking here is the shooting aspect, but I suppose he doesn't have to worry about that as much because he's playing in teams. He can somewhat, whereas I believe Dark Angels usually have a very good game into other shooting armies. This one might struggle there a little bit more, but it plays really good counter melee, like having the fights first on the Lion, the fights first on the Judicia with the Inner Circle Companions, having Deathwing Knight that can be just such a horrible time to break through, and then having a Calidus to tax you if you can break through them for the privilege. Like if you want to go supercharge your units with command points to try and get through Deathwing Knights, well, congrats, you're going to pay out the nose for it. So I think that's a beautiful.
Very powerful right now. I got the World Eaters, got Angels and other various random assault things, and so having all those abilities you just detailed, and then some flexibility where you can be everywhere, because a lot of assault armies want to be pushing everything that direction, but they've got to divert some significant firepower. I shouldn't say firepower to confuse the issue. For some fist power back the other direction, it kind of dilutes what they're able to accomplish going forward.
And I don't know if Thomas has made this list with full knowledge of what's going to come in the meta, but this list is fantastic against World Eaters, and there are so many World Eaters. This list has a lot of fun versus World Eaters. So I think he's hit the nail on the head with the meta. The only thing is whether this should be a Stormlands or a Gladius Task Force. But seeing as if it was a Gladius Task Force, he's not really getting any bang for his buck with some of the other bits and pieces. Although I have heard some interesting stuff about taking the 9 Black Knight combo, the Ravenwing Command Squad and the Black Knights, and putting Fire Discipline on them for crit 5s with 27 plasma shots. Yeah, it can be pretty saucy.
There we go. And we also put out a team too, another team to look at.
Yes, so Tryhard Nordic Alpha, which all 5 of these players represented their country at the WTC this year. So all 5 of them are hoping to return to represent Denmark once again in 2025. And so this is a good place to start to see what the best and brightest of Denmark of the last 12 months is bringing, hoping to work towards the next 12 months. Starts off with the Chaos Space Marine list of Renegade Raiders. Abaddon still has 2 Dark Communes with 2x16 Accursed Cultists, 2x10 regular Cultists, 3 bikers, and then here's the yin yang list that I've been waiting to see, and I want to see this if this list takes off now, because you don't want to go all in on the accursed cultists, but you have beautiful shooting assets you can use those points to divert into. So he's got 3 bikers, like I said, 3 predator destructors, and 3 vindicators. So he has 6 premium hulls, whilst they get screened, and you force people to play the middle of the board and exposed to the accursed cultist bricks. And of course, Abaddon gives those hulls buffs at the wazoo. Thousand Sons Cult of Magic. So his new T-Sons, guys. 2 Infernal Masters, Magnus, Demon Prince, as the first shrug, a Sorcerer and Terminator armor, which probably alludes to what's coming next. But then 2x5 rubrics, down from usually our 4x5, 3x5 rubrics. 10 Zangors, which have been little seen this edition. A single Mutalith, reduced down from 2, sometimes 3. 10 Scarab Occult Terminators, almost 400 points of them to go along with that Sorcerer and Terminator armor. And then 3x10 Cultists in lieu of what would usually be in light.
You only got a handful of points left. That's why.
That's it, baby. You've only got you can only stretch that dollar so far. It really feels like what's the saying Bilbo says? Like butter spread over too much bread. He needs a holiday. Yeah, Thousand Sons, baby. That's where they're at. We have Chaos Demons, Demonic Incursion, Bloodthirster, Grand Unclean One.
The grandest of the greatest unclean ones.
2 Rend Masters, which are of course on the Blood Thrones. Mask of Slanesh, 3x6 Blood Crushers, Max Crushers, 2x3 Fiends, 5. They hit extremely hard, dude. Do just a ton of mortals. Like they make the mortals that are generated by jump back intercessors look like a drop in the ocean. 2x3 Fiends, 5 Fleshhounds, and 5 Seekers. And then we have World Eaters, Berserker Warband, Angron, Card, Lord Inficatus, Massive Executions, 2x10 Jackals, a unit of 5 and unit of 10 Berserkers, 2 Rhinos toted around, 3 regular 8-bound, a unit of 3 and a unit of 6 Exalted 8-bound. Then rounding off the list, we have Space Wolves, Champions of Russ. Now, boys, people thought Space Marine Horde was dead because Black Templars got smashed. Like the unit of 20 Primaris Crusaders did get smashed. But who knew Space Wolves had the next best thing just hanging around? We have Lucas the Trickster, Ragnar Blackmane, and Ulrich the Slayer. Straight up, everyone throw up the horns. What a mad lad. 4 units of 15 Blood Claws, 2 units of 5 Fenrisian Wolves, 2x5 Scouts, 5 Infiltrators, 2x15 Sky Claws, and 10 Wolfen. It's Wolfie Horde. It's here. That's 60 Blood Claws and then 30
when I heard Claws. Lucas, I knew we were in for a treat with that.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, this is really interesting. So you can have some Feel No Pain here, there, and everywhere in this list, but this is nowhere near as durable as the Primaris Crusaders. But unlike what the other pressure or Horde list or very aggressive list you can play from Space Wolves, this list for Space Wolves, this pressure aggression list, is completely table agnostic. Whereas the Thunderwolf Cav really struggle on the heavy tables. Mm-hmm. This does not care whatsoever. And of course, still has some advance and charge abilities. And I think it's a very interesting play in this 5-pack, and is like the list I'd never expected to see. And when I was reading it, I was like, yes, this is a thing.
I don't know that this would ever be a singles list for starters. Like, I think this is purely a creation for a team's list. Yeah. Because you do get a little bit of, control over where you get matched up, or maybe what the role needs to be, or sometimes whatever function you need on the team for that round. But they are still killing. There are still Space Wolves.
Yeah, exactly right. And it has got some very interesting little tech pieces. So firstly, Ragnar is just a problem. That dude is just a problem. He gives advance and charge to his unit straight up. So he has 2 advance and charge units. Then on the charge, he goes to like 10 attacks at strength 8, AP 3, 2 damage. He's a blender. He's pretty much the reincarnation of Gabriel Seth. Now the Gabriel's, a little gone out to pasture, enjoying a quiet retirement.
Why you got to do this to me?
Because we know all each other's buttons. We've been doing this for too long, brother. And Ulrich the Slayer is actually a bit of a house. So he's nothing as special on his data sheet. He's pretty much just a bit of a souped up chaplain, but he gives rerolls to hit, rerolls to wound against character unit.
4 spiked balls rolling across the field.
Yeah,
like this, ready to to consume or devour everything in his
Mm,
path here, and he's got enough characters to spread around to support all of that. Like there
ex-
are no weak quarters of the table here.
yeah. And then, yeah, 2 by 15. Like, I mean, people are very used to killing 5 jump hack intercessors at this time in the meta. Are you used to killing 30? You know?
Yeah.
Is that just a level that people will not be able to overcome and get swamped? And
Mhm.
then if you do handle them, chances are you spent your first turn having to handle them, and now have what's that? Checks notes 60 blood claws probably on
Yeah.
your doorstep. So this thing is very interesting. I'm actually going to be looking very keenly at how this does and what it plays into and how they choose to pair this one,
Yeah.
because I think if this dodges some of, I can see some problem matchups in the meta for 'em. But the biggest one that would have been a problem for this would have been something like Thousand Suns, where they can play keep away and pick up probably 30 guys a turn, give or take, sometimes more. So Thousand Suns not being around as much. In addition, like you play against something like Votan or something with a lot of transports, you don't need to go and kill them. You just go and wrap them in freaking 30 dudes a piece, and you kind of just sit on the objectives and have a good time. On top of that, like you have lists like Necrons, which are still very prevalent. This thing just locks down the whole table from 3-inch deep strike. Like it actually doesn't have to worry about those big deep strike bombs. You're just gonna completely body the table away.
Didn't worry about anybody's flamers either. I mean, like the stuff for they're
Yeah,
taking for
yeah,
these horde Overwatch type stuff. So
yeah.
it's like a lot of insurance built into this list. So I
Mm.
like it. Again, and maybe it's different, but I think this is like going to be great in teams. Like this is a
Yeah,
great
yeah.
choice for this event, is what it seems
I
like.
think so as well. Dustin, you haven't had a chance to speak for a bit. How do you feel about this 5-pack?
I really like that dichotomy between the World Leaders and the Space Wolves. I really like that dichotomy between the Chaos Space Marines and the Chaos Demons, and the T-Suns
Yeah.
just being T-Suns, even though it is a very unique take on it, which is weird to
Mm.
say because T-Suns have been figured out for the edition, but they've been hit so many times. Like you got to keep
6
pivoting.
units, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I actually like seeing some big bricks of Terminators. I want to see how they do.
Mm. So what's interesting here is I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is a strangely aggressive 5-pack. Essentially, the 2 put-ups that I see is either the Thousand Suns or the Chaos Space Marines, depending on if you want to be aggressive and try and get. If they don't have any good two armies to go into the Chaos Space Marines, most likely on a light table, they're just going to go up and try and pair for themselves for a big clobbering win. And then if you want to be more defensive about it, Thousand Suns go up, take a heavy table, just kind of sit back and do their Thousand Suns shenanigans. And then you kind of have the demons that play the polarity switch very quickly. Like they can deploy and just freaking sit there for 4 turns if they want, and just kind of scrap. Or at any point they can just decide to go from first gear all the way up into 6th gear and push 1,500 points of their army down your throat in 3 units of Crushers, Thirster, your Ren Masters, etc. And then, like you said, you've got these 2 beautiful melee pressure lists in the World Eaters and the Space Wolves that I think go together so well, so very, very, very well, that in the back end of the pairings, one of those can't not get something juicy.
Let's pick a winner. In team events, we pick the faction we think is going to score the highest battle points. Not the team that will win, but the faction that will score the highest battle points. As you mentioned, all these pairings, sometimes it's the teams that aren't doing so well that have a faction in there that's just absolutely maxed it out on
Yep.
the bottom table brawler, with a couple of stout lists. So it's a little tricky sometimes to pick what's going to be the highest battle point finisher in these things, but we're going to give it a shot.
You picked first, Paul,
I'll
in the
go
last
last
one,
this time.
and Dustin picked last. So Dustin goes first. I'm still in the middle. Paul's last. All right, Dustin.
CSM.
Damn it.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, CSM in teams I think is still going to be very good. Do I back the World Eaters? No. You know what? Chaos Knights. There's 10 of them.
Oh,
do
World
it.
Eaters for me then.
Yeah, World Eaters for Paul. We've all gone pretty aggressive on those. Feels like a very aggressive meta in Denmark.
I like that. Just coming straight at each other.
Yeah.
Love it.
Back to
Love
the raiding days. All those Renegade Raider lists. What a coincidence. Hey.
So this
They invented that.
That's the only 2 events that we're covering this week. So we'll do 2 or 3 events if you're new around here. 2 or 3 events every single week from all over the globe. And then here at the end of the show, we have a segment that sometimes has very little to do with 40K or anything else. Are we doing that this time?
Yeah, I made this like weeks ago. I have a bunch of them in here, so I don't remember what it is, but I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
no. Okay. Sometimes they have a theme. Sometimes
Oh, look at that.
they don't. But we give ourselves a series of topics. We give ourselves 2 minutes to run down each topic. At the end of that 2 minutes, we abandon it, never to refer to it again, other unless it's a joke that we do on the thing, or unless a Patreon subscriber says, they like to see it again as a Fuego topic. But sometimes this is a little palate cleanser after we spend, an hour, 45 minutes or so talking about crunchy, hardcore stats, the meta, what's winning, what's doing well, the combination of everything. Here we just breathe out and relax and have a good time as we ease ourselves into the weekend, looking to see the results of these events. I'm ready to go when y'all are.
All right. Today's theme apparently is how do you hobby? I'm pretty sure I made this when I was lucid, but no promises. We'll see how this goes. So the first one is standard pose or converted pose?
See, I'm going to have a gripe here.
Okay.
Wait, are you talking about how we position ourselves or the models
The
themselves?
models, not yourself.
I mean,
I guess, you know
in-
what?
in-
If you have a converted pose that you'd like to show off, please show us.
So if you haven't seen Paul and I together at a Games Workshop event or a US Open, just know that we are a self-contained GNU squad. Just striking poses
Yeah, just
in there and everywhere. So I have a gripe with this. The new models that GW are producing are the best I've ever beheld.
That's
the
true.
detail, the sculpts are phenomenal, but the converting and reposing opportunities have never been less, in my opinion. They're so much harder to do. Like I just built Gaunt's Ghosts, and I have no bare heads in pretty much all my guard army, and it's impossible. It's pretty much impossible for me to change those heads in any meaningful way. And not that I would necessarily want to, but it wasn't even a thing I could consider because they're built exactly how they're built and they slot in perfectly where they slot in. And I'm like, I could spend like 6 hours trying to figure out how to do one of these guys or just put the freaking heads on they come with.
So what I do, I'll build the first 5 normal, like right off the instructions. Now, not with Gaunt's Ghosts are all individual characters, like it's a different thing altogether. But and then for the next 5, I will intentionally swap their arms and stuff around in the helmet. It's not the same heads that I used in the first 5 to get me some variations in some of that. But I agree, like the legs, they're all kind of the same pose. Although I did just build 5 Death Company, and they look a lot different than 5 Jump Pack Intercessors.
They have done a really good job with that lately. Like I just built a new Lictor for the first time in God knows how long because I've been using my old meta ones for so long. Their new poses are actually pretty cool. I'm very happy with them. So, and I can only bring 3, right? So,
but I like kit bash, and so if I can get away with doing a kit bash out of the kit, I may do it on the subsequent build. Like after the initial set has been built.
All right, next up, airbrush or hand paint.
Man, my airbrush broke.
Yep. So I mean hand paint, but
your rattle can broke, Paul.
So I'm not great with an airbrush, but I have one, and I can lay down some base coats and maybe that first highlight, and then I've got to go in with the hand brush. But I've had this same airbrush for over a decade now, and it finally just gave up the ghost. It's either de-chromed on the inside or whatever it is. And my compressor from a discount hardware store has lasted this entire time as well. So I felt like I made good choices when I got it, but it's finally given up the ghost, and I've transitioned more to just hand paint.
So I have a get to the good bits approach to painting these days, where I don't want to waste a huge amount of time just base coating. I want to get to the detail, the shading, the highlight, the stuff that I find kind of therapeutic about painting. And so that's where the airbrush comes in. The airbrush gets me to the good bits, gets me to the joy of painting and spending more time on the joyous parts rather than just sitting there painting the third coat of a khaki onto a boot, Yeah,
that's fair. For me, it's an aesthetic thing. Like I never, ever, ever airbrush my NIDs. I never airbrush my GSC infantry.
You never airbrush your NIDs.
Nope.
That's literally what the airbrush it's the airbrush army.
Nope.
NIDs and Necrons, the airbrush armies.
I have hand painted every single Tyranid infantry and monster in my army. And yes, there are about 30,000 points of them.
Wild.
I do not like the aesthetic of airbrush nids. It looks too clean. They should not look like that.
Sometimes the airbrush makes it look too airbrushy.
Exactly.
Like you just don't want
Yeah.
that. You don't want that vibe on your.
And maybe there's a technique to make it look less like that. I'm just not good enough with it to do it. That's also possible too.
So
Yeah.
I had a derogatory slur I used when there was a dark time when the hobby was 3 colors minimum, but there was no accepted what 3 colors was, just that you had to have 3 colors on it. And I coined a term called the people who spray and pray. They get their airbrush and they just kind of spray 3 different colors from 3 different angles, and then try and get away with playing that on the table. And I'm like, good old spray and pray right over there in the corner. It was dark time, people. It was like mid 7th edition. No one was having a good time.
Oh god, let's not talk about that. Ugh. All right, next up. How many colors make up one of your model's sections, like armor, helmet, skin, etc.?
I mean, is 1 billion an answer? Because I feel like no matter how many, like how basic your color scheme, like that pick ends up being, I am at the end of like a paint session, I am essentially cocooned in paint pots.
Yes, Paul. I'm the same. When I get out to do a batch of something, I'll get out the exact paints that I need, and by the time I'm finished the model, they're like gremlins. They water touched the paint. They have multiplied. They have doubled. Fed them after midnight. It's all going to hell. But yeah, my favorite part of painting is when you've done everything and then start finding all the little bits. Just like, I got to put a bit this on. You run over to your stash. And you're like, ooh, I got this one. I got that. I got a technical paint. Got an effect paint.
Recipe. Figure out what I did for that last purity seal.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I think on average, one little section, like a piece of armor or whatever, on average for me, it's at least, not including like really little fine details or whatnot, like all inclusive, it's usually about 6 colors.
Yeah.
It's like a
base. Is that
what's that like? I don't know. No, I agree. Like I'm with you. I think that it feels like 6 colors, but it's probably.
Oh yeah, no. When you look at your, like you said, when you look at the cocoon you're in afterwards, there's definitely there's more in there. There's more in there. Then like the best part is when you find those color combos of the aesthetic that you want, and you're like, okay, I actually have a little carrying case of my paints that has lines. So I have them lined up in order of what order I do them in for the different pieces, and labeled of what it's for. So I always, and if even if it's empty, it's in there, so I know what I'm supposed to get to replace it, and I don't take it out until I get a replacement for it, because I need to know what's in there. I made a Google Doc for it eventually because it got messed up, but yeah, it's a good system. It's a good system.
It works. Like you have 30,000 points of tyranny. It's not bad.
It's not bad, right? All right, next up. How long does it take you to finish painting a single infantry model to your standard?
So if it was just a guardsman to my standard, probably from start to finish, I've probably got it down under an hour.
Yeah.
Because I've got the base coats down so pat, like it'll take me like less than 10 minutes to do the base coats, and because I always keep my guardsmen separate, so I've got legs that are just going to be a khaki, and then the top is just going to be Cadian green. Stick them together, paint the details, done.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere between 45 minutes to 2 hours, depending on which army is for.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah.
40, yeah. So pretty much Acadian, I get it out, paint the boots black, pick out the other bits of khaki, like around the shoulders and the wrists, around the plates. Paint visors, paint a little bit of flesh on hands. Paint the gun casing black at the same time as the boots. Some gunmetal, wash it. It's done.
And part of that also is waiting on washers to dry time.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
well, I call it
finished. Just doing like multiple infantry, right? That's the assembly line kind of mentality.
So also, I will do everything. Like literally, I will even do some highlights, and then wash, and that's done. And I call it done as soon as the wash is on. It's done. And so the drying time doesn't. I don't have to wait for shit.
Oh, really? You don't highlight after the wash or anything after that?
I do. Say, well, these days I don't. But if I these days I don't
Get
list
that
the
10
character.
points and move on with your life.
Yeah. I ain't got a lot of time these days, guys.
I know that feeling.
But so yeah, I get it up to my standard, my minimum standard, which is above that already. And so I'm pretty happy with it. But I will put on one layer of highlights and I will selectively wash. Like if I'm washing over highlights, it'll be very thin wash and or recess shade. So I won't gum them up.
I find that sometimes the contrast paints thin down super much to be to the wash, help with that going over sometimes.
Oh, that's true.
That's a good shout.
Been using a lot of basilic gray, like really thin down recently.
Very nice. Okay. I think that's about the average. Next up, standard models or kit bashing. How do you feel about heavy kit bashes? And 3D prints. I'm going to throw that in there too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I love kit bashes and personalization because that's one of the ways you can kind of like show love. You're like put some of your personality. One of the ways you can put your personality into the model. So I'm all about it. And then heavy kit bashes. If you mean kit bashed beyond like discernible ability about what it is or was, then I'm fine with that too, as long as the same general like height and proportions and base size, and you communicate with your opponent about what it is.
That's, I think, the biggest thing for me, right? I think if it's recognizable enough that if you say to somebody, hey, this is what this is, and they go, oh yeah, absolutely, then you've done a great job with it. If it's harder to do that with some things, because depending on how much you're trying to customize it, you want to make sure it has something equipped that they'll recognize, or at least the character they kind of recognize, if that makes any sense. Because it's hard to really customize something to the way that you want to have a certain aesthetic if you can't equip them properly, right? Because then is it still Wissuig at that point if it's not equipped with the right weapons? Like that's the hard part.
And I got something else, maybe not 3D prints, but like when is a proxy and when is it just an artistic choice? Like dire wolves, are can you use some other wolf model or something, or are you proxying, and is proxying bad, and is a model swap for the same profile that better fits the aesthetic of your army better? And like, what is that distinction? I'm not claiming to make that. I think
it's hard. In fact, it's impossible. I'll use an example of a model that I ended up approving for the last event that I ran, because they showed me like this, like a Power Ranger. I'm like, okay, what's this Power Ranger supposed to be? It's like this is Sir Hector. Like, I mean, it's not really coming out of a Megazord. Then they showed me their Canis Rex, and it was actually like a model as a Megazord. How
does he actually blow the flute?
No, it was modeled as a Megazord.
Yeah, how does he do it?
But because of the aesthetic, like they mashed together, like, okay, you know what? It's still Canis Rex, but like the head and everything was all converted to be Megazords. Like, yep, nope, that's fine. That's done.
Oh my goodness! Hey,
if I had unlimited time in my life, every single model I ever built would be kit bashed.
Yeah.
Every single one would have some atom put upon it. Only the most perfect model in the world, Lionel Johnson, would not be kit bashed.
Well, we got a buddy with a first and only army, and he's got his entire armies have cloaks and capes, and they don't come standard on the model. So that expression out there exists, and it's cool to see. So I encourage people to do that if they are called to do it. As a tournament player, and the show is about tournaments, how the model is represented and equipped on the table is part of the communication that you're doing with your opponent across the table. So if you're going to an organized play event, that should be a quick interchange, or you constantly remind your opponent of that. But in like narrative games and other formats where that's maybe less of maybe an unwritten or unspoken mandate, then go nuts, man. These are your models. Once you get them home, they do whatever you want, make you feel good.
It's your toys at the end of the day, right? Have fun with them.
Yep.
So I think that's the end of the Fuego. So we have our last piece of this segment here, our newest segment, the meme
of the week.
The meme of the week, which this week I believe, yes, it is. You cannot possibly.
One does not simply.
Sorry, yes, one does not simply.
So I've got two. So
Oh,
the first
I got to
one,
put the timer up. No, don't start yet. I got to put the timer up. Okay.
no, too bad. Too bad. The first one is one does not simply invade the Eye of Terror. And the second one is Abaddon's generals saying to him, one does not simply break Cadia. Both sides of the same door.
Those are good.
So one does not simply. No, I lost it. I had it, and I lost it.
One does not simply reduce points to balance a broken army.
Armin to Magnus. One does not simply find the Black Library.
One does not simply remember the names of the crisis suits.
Yes.
Okay,
that's perfect.
That's a good one.
That's great.
A good one.
That's really good. That might be the winner. All right, we're gonna have to beat that.
That's a good one.
Oof.
We need to replace his face with a Sly Marbo's O face. And one does not simply
yeah.
I painted Sly Marbo, the old one, recently,
The old one,
just to use as a commander, and the eyeballs are quite pronounced. I'll just put it that.
Massive. I mean, never mind. I can't say anything further. Dang.
One does not simply call taco a sandwich.
Yes. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, KR. That's up there.
Give him an AdMag code. Was does not simply robot bebop boop.
Yeah, 101101101. Yeah. One does not simply extend their legs. It's still play. Dang, why did they use my good ones so early?
We already used so many good ones early on, and then that crisis suit one kind of.
I just want to dress up
in
different costumes. Like one does not simply kill main Berm.
Yeah. One does not simply kill Angron 3 times in one game.
That's it.
Oh, look. For the folks, we see some new names in the chat. Tell your friends, everyone that's been showing up and coming up and supporting us every week. Hope you had a great time. Talking about Warhammer 40K and this nonsense here at the end of the show with us for this hour. It was a pleasure doing that with y'all. Do not forget it. Look, if you have made it this far and you just sat through that, please give us a subscribe if you have not already. Leave us those 5-star reviews, leave some comments. That shows the aggregators that other people should come and hang out with us. And, maybe this keeps on growing like it does. Would really mean a lot to us if y'all did that. I know we mentioned the Patreon a couple times, but that's because we had a Patreon subscriber suggest a tournament for us to cover. We actually just recorded our part 2 from last week. So you can listen to that now if you are the subscriber at that tier. So it's fresh in our minds, and want to remind y'all that it exists as well. But there are multiple ways to support the show, and every single one of them is important to us. Thank y'all so much. Gentlemen, it has been a pleasure talking about this with y'all as well, and I cannot wait till next week. Halloween going to be a Halloween episode. Going to get spooky over here.
Oh, are we dressing up? Is that what's happening?
I mean,
tune in and find out live.
Yeah,
okay.
See you next week.
See you, everybody.
See you guys.